live, and I'm pretty sure this is being recorded. Oh man, it's been so long since we've done this. Well, we're live, so who knows what's going to happen. I don't know. Well, welcome Haley, welcome Q. We are back. It's been almost a year. This is the studio episode 121. I'm calling this episode the Phoenix because, for reasons we will explain, we're being reborn from the ashes of what was the crash and burn of this podcast.
No.
So, and speaking of crash and burn, Q, you didn't see this right before we came on. I showed Haley, but my tablet, which I was using to do all of our cool sound effects, it met with an unfortunate demise. I was trying to get it to work right now to do the sound effects, but it's not happening. So, thanks. We have no sound effects, no intro music, no outro music. It's going to be just us and the sound effects that Haley makes. This is why I miss doing the show with you. My life has been so incomplete. And if we notice, Haley has no webcam or profile picture. She is a nameless bluehead, but that's okay.
I have one. It's just not showing up.
I know you have a bluehead. It's there. So well, let's step back a bit. So the reason we're doing this show, originally, it was because it was Architecture Week this week, and I know Haley, you got a lot of stuff going on with the AIA to celebrate Architecture Week, and I was thinking I want to be in on that. Whatever Haley's doing, I want to do. And then
that's scary.
Me too.
And then on top of that, I got a call from Peter Coppert. I guess it's been about a week and a half ago now. Oh, by the way, is my text mirrored? Like, does my sloArch logo up? It's reading the right direction. Okay. Yep. I wasn't sure. So I got a call from Peter Coppert a couple weeks ago saying that finally, after 5 years, the sloArch Foundation is officially a 501c3 corporation. We are recognized by the IRS as a nonprofit foundation. So if I had an applause button, which maybe I'll do an applause button.
Yay!
Yeah. So I don't have any Google effects. Let's see. Do I have downloading app, installing? Let's see. Anyways, so I thought that would be a good time to do something because, like I said, we haven't done much for a year. I've been posting little things on our Facebook page every once in a while. Oh, did that work?
Yeah, it did.
No, I didn't hear it. I just saw the volume thing going. I was thinking, we've put 5 years of work into getting nonprofit status. We should do something now that we have it. So this is our something, and hopefully we'll do something more. But maybe before we get into that, let's just catch up on where everyone's at. So a year ago, Q and I and Haley, were you part of it when we interviewed the Fab Four? Let's see. I'm trying to think.
No.
I'm going to click on the show notes. So
like
episode 1.
Like the Beatles? Like you interviewed the Beatles?
Yes. Wait, no, actually, I'm showing on the show notes you were there. We interviewed. Oh no, that was Final Cut. You were on the Chumash show episode.
Yeah, I don't think Haley was there for the interview, but Haley, of course, was at the Chumash show.
Yeah, so we had Ryan Brockett, Angelina Bracco, Umberto Norman, and Jermaine Washington, who were at the time they were the 4 new architecture lecturers.
Right.
So that episode we recorded on May 20th of 2014, almost 11 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. And then we did our Chumash show, which was on May 24th through the 27th. And that one came out, we published it on June 2nd. So it's been way too long.
Wow.
So let's catch up. Where have you guys, what have you been doing for the last year?
Haley, do you want to start?
Well, I'm really excited to say that I have single-handedly manned a craft to Mars, and I've been living on Mars for...
That would explain why you're You don't have any video for this call. That makes perfect sense.
Yes, I'm actually coming from the future. No, let's see. I've been very busy in AIA.
Can you talk closer to your mic? You're a little bit quiet. I'm going to move my mic closer.
Yes,
Thanks.
I've been very involved with my AIA leadership capacity, sitting on the National Board of Directors as the Associate Director. I've been working hard at work. Oh, there's a dog.
That would be my dog.
I thought that was a sound effect.
Yeah.
I've been working like a dog at work at my real job, which has been all-consuming. I've gotten engaged and planned a wedding and almost married.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And have a almost stepson who's 7 now. So yeah, that's life in a nutshell in a year.
Yeah, all in less than a year. And now you kind of skimmed over your AIA stuff. You said you're really involved, but
yeah, I'm really involved.
What does that entail? Because I cannot keep track of exactly what you're up to.
It entails a lot of travel, a lot of meetings, a lot of conference calls, and task forces. So I've been involved, let's see, last January was the Emerging Professional Summit. Of course, all the board meetings. So we have 4 board meetings a year, so that's travel. And then a handful of committee work, so membership committee, board community committee, the National Associates Committee. I was on the NCARB Future Title Task Force, and I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting.
Now, what's your current position? Because
yeah, my current position is the Associate Director on the National Board of Directors.
Wow.
So, and I'm currently seeking a new office. So I'm currently running for office, which will be voted on at the National Convention in Atlanta.
That's right, coming up next month.
Yeah, second or third week in May 15th, 16th. That's when the national elections will take place. So all of the new governance model that we've been working on at the national level has opened up additional pathways for leadership opportunities for people such as myself that are still associate members. So this is a really exciting milestone where an associate can run for a position and be elected in by the members of the institute that are delegates serving in their capacity to represent their components at the convention. So they will cast votes. They'll vote the that's where the secretary or treasurer or first president-elect are voted on, as well as these new at-large director positions, which used to be the vice presidents, but they've been kind of rebranded and renamed. So yeah, that's life in a nutshell right now.
Now, what do you have to do to be elected? What are your chances? What can we do to help? Do we have to show up to convention to vote?
Yeah. Well, every component is given a certain number of delegate votes, and it has to do with the total number of members that your component has. So whether your local chapter, your state component, or your regional component, they have a certain number of delegate votes based on the total number of membership. So like my local AIA San Joaquin chapter here in California, we have 75 members. So we have 5 delegate votes. So those votes are normally given to the president or vice president of the chapter or some other designated person of the chapter that's representing the chapter, and then that individual will normally attend convention, and they go to all the caucuses and the business sessions, and then they cast their vote. via ballot and vote on resolutions for the Institute and also the leadership positions that are coming into office.
So what you're telling me is I cannot vote for you because I'm not a delegate.
Probably not.
Oh, well,
But you
okay.
can talk to
You can
delegates.
convince the upper people in your chapter of the AIA to vote for Haley.
Ah, good idea. So I'll talk you up, tell them how awesome you are.
It's exciting. It's an exciting opportunity. I'm just really grateful to have the opportunity and to be up there on stage and representing a demographic of our profession and the institute, but also just continue my service because I really do enjoy volunteering for the AIA and serving our membership.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thanks for doing that. And I mean, all the more honor to us for knowing you and knowing someone that's running for that position.
Oh,
I know I don't feel worthy, Haley. Like,
oh,
how did this happen? How did we get to know somebody famous? It's very cool.
I don't know about famous.
So how about you, Q? You've had a lot going on too. You've
Yeah.
exciting events.
Right. Well, I think all three of us has probably felt how much busier the work environment seems to have gotten. But on top of that, I actually was recently seated as a board member of the Architecture Review Board in my town. And so that is taking up some of my time, but it's also a very fun volunteer position to have. And as someone who's grown up in this city and continues to live here as a working professional, I feel that's kind of my due diligence to kind of give back and to participate. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be in a similar position to Haley.
Well, that's really awesome, though. I've thought that if I had more free time, I'd like to try to get a position on it.
Yeah, I think when I was applying, I did have a little bit more free time, but obviously, as the turn of the year has come around, it's definitely picking up, and it's hard to make time, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So just trying to stay on top of things and give back to my community.
So what type of responsibilities do you have on that board?
Right, that's a great question. So the Architecture Review Board in my town reviews all commercial public projects, including residential projects if there are 3 units or more. So we don't review any individual single-family projects, but we'll review condominium projects, mixed-use projects, projects in the downtown. If you live relatively close to where I live in Palo Alto, there's actually been a lot of fuss over newly proposed developments in our downtown and the city. But it's a fun thing to be involved in, and I'm definitely learning a lot about city structure and about how a project is sometimes viewed differently between professionals and the public. But it's all a learning process, and just enjoying it while I'm going through it.
That's awesome. So are you reviewing it for like conformance to the general plan or like zoning ordinances or code compliance?
Right. So basically what our job is to provide a recommendation to the city council for that particular project which we're reviewing. And before it comes to the Architecture Review Board, it's a public hearing twice a month. But before it comes to us, it is reviewed by planners to make sure that it is within conformance of the city ordinance. But it's kind of our job as architectural professionals to really guide the city on whether or not we feel that it's within the same character and quality of that neighborhood or of that district and of the city as a whole.
So that brings up a question, just professionally speaking, Haley. You deal primarily with schools, right? Have you had to take a project through a planning process like Hugh's describing, or do you typically just deal with DSA?
I've had to go through a planning process somewhat similar, like with some of the facility master plan work that we've done. the project in particular that I'm working on up in Chico, we had a lot of community meetings. So we had to do a number of presentations to the school board and go through kind of a review process with the school board itself and respond to some of their uh, and remarks and change, some of the design parameters. So it's not necessarily the same level, but it was definitely a process of review that took quite some time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was curious. Now, Q, besides that you've had some personal changes. I don't know if you're going to talk about those, but you're much busier now and will be in the future significantly more busy. And that will factor into how we're going to do the show moving forward. Myself, let's see, over the last year, I have continued to run my firm. We've grown, and we're growing. Like you mentioned, things are just really picking up. So my free time has shrunk. We moved. I've got a new house. This is my home office here. I've got room now for my, let's see, where am I pointing? My drum set is now here, set up all the time.
And the banner.
And yeah, I've got my sloArch banner up here. I've got my Cal Poly diploma over here.
Very nice.
I've got my poor T-square back here, which I never use anymore. And let's see, I'll adjust the camera up, but I've got my my sword. Oh, there it is, my sword hanging on the wall. So this is my man architecture cave right here. It's pretty nice.
And,
Except the dog's barking.
As you've gotten busier, has the majority of your work been more or less the same, or are you getting involved in newer projects or different project types?
Yeah, across the board. More of the same, significantly more of the same, but we are getting into some bigger project types. This last year, we really made the jump from residential into doing multifamily, like single-family residential to multifamily residential and commercial. So we're doing a couple of shopping centers, and we've done a number of restaurants and larger residential buildings, and then just the single-family housing market's come back like crazy. 2 years ago, we weren't doing any ground up. I mean, even I would say the last 5 years, it was really maybe one new house a year. Now we're doing dozens. Just since January. So it's really picked up. Yeah, and then also we've had some opportunities to collaborate. Seth and Kelly. I always say their names wrong. Payamayer is embarrassing. I can't say the last name. But they're with Atelier Design. You remember Seth and Kelly, right, Haley?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have gotten a lot busier, and we've been collaborating together. I'm licensed, and they've gotten into some bigger projects where they need a licensed architect on board. So that's been fun. We've done some collaborations this year, and then probably our most newsworthy collaboration this year was with a firm, their design firm called Urban Block, and they design shipping container structures. And we just completed a pop-up village for the San Francisco Giants right across from McCovey Cove in Lot A of the parking lot there.
Right.
And unfortunately, our involvement in the project, we were hired. We took the design, the site design, and the basic, shipping container layouts, and then we did all the working drawings and permitting processes with the Port Authority and DSA. So we didn't do the glamorous side. We did the nuts and bolts and how we're going to anchor this thing and temporary, sewer supplies and water and all that stuff. So we're the architects of record on the project, but unfortunately we didn't get into any of the news coverage. All the media coverage was primarily the Giants spent quite a bit of money on this project. So they had a conceptual design firm, then they had a site design firm, then they had a bidding. They sent the whole project out to bid for design build teams who would take these conceptual designs and turn them into a working thing. So we teamed up with Urban Block and a couple of other consultants, and we went in and we won the bid. And so there was Urban Block who designed the shipping containers. along with us, because we got permits for all the containers. They're basically like relocatable classrooms. They're all approved through DSA, like a modular home or something like that. So we got all of those permits, and then we got the site planning permits, and then, or not site planning permits, but the site development permits. And then the Giants hired another third party to come in and do all of the construction admin and all the construction observation. So we were on site a few times, but they had another firm dedicated to that. And because they were on site on all the newspaper articles and the media interviews for the television, they were the ones who got the credit for the whole thing, even though they primarily were involved with just CA work. But it was a fun project to be involved in, for sure. So.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was fun. So anyways, so that's where we're at personally. And, oh, and I had a baby in there too, another baby. Forgot about that part.
I was waiting for that.
And she's cute. She was born in November, so, you know, she's almost 5 months old. We'll be on the 19th, so, you know, it's old news at this point.
It's old news.
Just kidding. This show, I think, is threatening to drag on really long. I do want to talk a little bit. We've got a ton of Cal Poly news. I don't think we can get to a whole year's worth, but there's some key things I want to go over. But I did want to take a minute just with the two of you on the call, on the show here, to talk about the future of sloArch, the studio podcast. So a couple things that I would like to do is we're going to go back to having a show twice a month. And we're going to, well, we used to do it weekly, then we went to monthly, then we went to yearly. So now I want to set a goal for twice a month. But I know, Haley, you're busy. Q, you're going to be really busy in about 4 to 5 months.
Right.
Where do you guys see the future of the podcast? That's question number one. And then point two is, now that we're a nonprofit, my vision from the very beginning of this whole thing, when we started it 5 or 6 years ago, was to support Cal Poly architecture any way we could, including starting up a scholarship program. And now, I don't know if you guys have been to sloArch.com in the last 24 hours, but I've started working on revamping the website to have it more focused towards raising money and funds. And I'd like to really ramp up and get a robust scholarship program focused specifically for people coming into Cal Poly architecture. And I know there's a bunch of scholarships out there, not many specifically for architects. I think the only other one I know of is the CAD Foundation. They've got a scholarship. Do you know of any other scholarships specifically? Well, actually, that wasn't even specifically architecture. That's for the whole college. Have you guys heard of anyone specific for the architecture program at Cal Poly?
Yeah, I know there were a couple sponsored by previous professors that had kind of started their own scholarship for students in the architecture program. I fortunately was the recipient of one of them, but there's also the Odo scholarship, I think, was another pretty big one in the architecture department. I don't know if it still exists, but yeah, there have been scholarships like that. The Odo one, I don't know if it's a previous professor, but yeah, I haven't been in touch with the scholarships at school, but I'm sure we could find out.
Okay, well, I just found the website. So it turns out Cal Poly has a website about the scholarships available to the AED. Let's see. So there is one I see for fifth-year architecture majors. There's one for architecture or landscape. The department itself has a scholarship. There's BFGC Architects Planners Incorporated has a scholarship. Brett Berrier Memorial Scholarship. Oh, that was anybody. Let's see. I'm looking for architecture specific. Archie, landscape architecture. Okay, Dawn and Carol Coburg have a architectural history scholarship, if you're going to go into that. CM, landscape. Okay, Douglas W. Bushcock Memorial Scholarship is for architecture only. Let's see. Archie. Boy, the architectural engineers have a ton of scholarship opportunities. Wow. Yeah, so I'm looking on the list here. There's a bunch of scholarships available. Very few that are just architecture only. Most of them appear to be for architectural engineers. So we need to step this up and get some bigger architecture only scholarships. So that's point 2. Is where do we see that going? And then, well, why don't we start with those 2 questions? So do you guys have any thoughts about first the podcast and on where we take it from here? Q, I know you shared some, so why don't you start off? Tell me, put it out there for public consumption, what your thoughts are.
Sure. Well, you know, I'd like to stay involved however I can. I guess I didn't break the news, but I'll be having a baby as well in the next coming months, so that's why I'll be a little bit more occupied.
Congratulations!
Thank you. But I think maybe we ought to have a discussion of, whether this show is really more for alumni or for current students or for both, or how we can get maybe some current students involved. And I'm definitely for the scholarship. I think that's a great idea. And I think the 3 of us, what we have in common is that we went to Cal Poly. We're architecture majors, and we still love our institution. And what better way than to inspire current students and others to do the same and to succeed. So I think that's great, and just kind of interested to hear what you guys have to say as well.
Haley, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I have many thoughts. My specific thought recently about our fundraising is, we always talked about in the early days how one of the great things about the podcast and what we were doing was connecting, right, the community of alumni and current students. And I know that, we all want to be part of our alumni organization, but sometimes it's hard to know what you can do or to have the funds to make a significant contribution. But I had this thought, like, the success of things like Kickstarter, where you're, the whole crowdfunding thing, if it's just a matter of, getting a bunch of people together and they each donate $5, $10, $20, the power that could have in, funding this scholarship opportunity. And it would be a really powerful way to connect the alumni, because if you had a couple hundred alumni, I mean, between the 3 of us, we have lots of peers that are Cal Poly grads. And if everybody just chipped in a little bit, that would be a significant contribution to help, 1 or 2 students.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. In fact, I was looking at there's another architecture podcast out there that recently got started, and they started the podcast with a Kickstarter campaign, and they raised a ridiculous amount of money. It was like, I don't know, $80,000 or something, just to do a podcast. I mean, they weren't even doing anything else. They're just doing a podcast. And I think you're right, Haley. The whole notion of connecting, like if you notice up here on the banner, our tagline was connecting Cal Poly architecture. I think right now there's a bit of a disconnect in that we're all alumni, like Hugh was saying. I'd really like to see more Cal Poly current students involved. But I think it's it's been awesome doing the interviews we've had where we've brought on Joyce Vagacy, the first woman to graduate from Cal Poly. We had Peter and I went to that reunion. It was a 40-year reunion of a bunch of architecture grads. Those kind of things have just been fantastic. And then even nobody else is covering the Chumash show. There's, like, if we didn't talk about and showcase the Chumash show, nobody else is doing that.
Right.
So I think those are a couple of key areas where we're filling a personal need, at least. Like, if we weren't doing this, I'd feel left out of what's going on. But then I think you're right. Just looking at the scholarship fund right now, all these scholarships are either memorial scholarships. So I'm guessing there's some trust or some bequeathment from that person's estate, or they're run by firms. So there's like an RRM scholarship, right? There's a MBH architect scholarship. But the way I kind of see the scholarship thing working, I guess, is the same way I see this podcast moving forward, would be more of that crowdsourcing model where anybody who's available, come on, let's talk. Let's just talk architecture. If you're available on a Monday, Tuesday night, just log on and we'll have a conversation about Cal Poly and architecture. And then whoever can donate for the scholarship. And I really like to see the selection of the scholarship be more crowdsourced. And we'll have to kind of figure out the logistics on that, because I know people rig elections all the time, especially online elections. It's easy to get 500 friends to vote for one person. But I would like to see maybe we do delegates of some sort. Maybe there's a vetted group of architecture alumni that we solicit to help determine who the scholarship goes to. I don't know. Those are some of the thoughts I had.
Yeah.
But,
I like it.
yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure where that takes us, but for the listening audience, this is our vision. This is where we're headed. And I guess along that crowdsourcing idea, send us your thoughts of what you would like to see. I know, Q, you were a fan of the show before you became a part of it. We've had other fans reach out to us through the years. Justin Ribble for a while was contributing. We've had a lot of people come on, repeat guests, and let us know your thoughts of what you think we should do with this. Because we haven't done much for the last year, but we do have quite the legacy, 121 episodes. It'd be interesting to count how many interviews we've done. It's got to be, approaching 100. How many Chumash shows have we gone to? 4 or 5? 6?
Every year since, since, what, 2009?
Yeah, so several.
This will be the 6th.
6th year.
Well, and that actually brings up the next point. Was this on the agenda? Let's see. Our show notes. Let's see. Oh, good. Oh, Haley, you're taking notes. It's like the good old days. Wow, the show is resurrected.
I put some stuff in.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah. Well, here, let's go down this real quick. We'll get to the Chumash show in a second. So, admissions, there was this article that came out, record number of students applied to Cal Poly. This is good and bad news. Bad news for my son, who's considering coming to Cal Poly. But did you see the average GPA of those accepted? It's 4.0.
25.3.
Yeah. Oh, why isn't this coming up?
Yeah, the link doesn't work right now.
Yeah. It broke. Well,
We'll find it. Keep going. I'll find it.
Yeah. So, well, there was all sorts of numbers in there that were fun to look at, but anyways, yeah, record number of people applied, and of course, I'm not sure what the statistics were, but not as many people applied as got positions. There's not enough spots. But that's great. It means the word's gotten out about Cal Poly. A lot more people are interested in going there, and that helps keep the program strong because you get the best of the best. Let's see. Anything on upcoming? You got a link there. Upcoming events. So I put a couple in. You got a couple there. We've got Canyon Days, April 11th. What's that? Is that a new thing?
Yeah, it was the second year that they've done this. Obviously, it just happened this past Saturday.
Yeah.
But there's a Facebook page. I found it on the Cal Poly Architecture Department web page. But they are having these Canyon Days where they're just getting people together and they're trying to, I guess, restore and rehabilitate Poly Canyon. It's fallen into a little bit of disrepair.
Yeah.
I think some of those original architectural sculptures and follies out there, the follies are falling apart, and they're trying to encourage Cal Poly students and possibly alumni as well to go out there and spend a weekend kind of sprucing things up and getting things ready before Design Village and everything else that's coming up on the calendar.
Yeah.
This is really cool. I didn't know they were doing this.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there actually.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've only been out there a couple of times, like to count on one hand. But every time I go out there, I remember it just being much more than I'd imagined, and it'd be nice to maybe head out there if we can make it down there for the show this year.
Well, years ago, back when Haley and I think were in third year, second year, I forget. But we built something out there. Remember we built that chair or bench or as part of, was it Donna Dirks? Whose class was that?
Yeah, I think I was in Dirks.
Yeah, we went out there. And,
Lucy was in our group too. Well,
that's right, Lucy Bignon.
And there were cows. I remember the cows were like walking around or walking through or something.
Back in the good old days, I was like, what, 2002 or 3? I was like over a decade ago, Haley. We're old.
Gosh.
Well, that's really cool. And then let's see what next. Design Village is coming up this weekend. Very cool.
Yeah, so open house is this week, and then Design Village is over the weekend.
Awesome.
I never did Design Village. Did you guys do Design Village?
No. I didn't participate. I've been out there during the open house weekend to kind of check things out.
It's funny, even our here in Fresno for our AI San Joaquin, the 2 community colleges that have architecture programs here send teams to Design Village. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a big deal. People come from all over for it.
Yeah, it's huge.
And this year, what's the theme? It's Clockwork. Design Village 2015. Let's see, what's it say? It says, let's see. Yeah, I'm just looking really quickly here.
But this is a point in the show where we hope that current students are listening to the podcast, and after Design Village, they will post photos or perhaps tweet or whatever, hashtag, whatever the kids are saying nowadays. No, I'm just kidding. I know the jargon. But it's a great way to interact and show us, what you're working on in Design Village, and again, just that whole concept of connecting Cal Poly architecture.
Exactly.
Future.
Then we got hashtag sloArch. That's the one. I'll be looking for that. So Hearst lecture series, that's still going on. That's fantastic. That's been going on for so many years. Big thanks to the Hearst family foundation for that. So there's let's see, what's the next one coming up? This Friday there's Dominic Long from Leong Architecture, New York-based design office.
They actually helped to curate the U.S. Pavilion this past year, or last year, I guess it was, at the Venice Biennale. So
very cool.
Dominic's an alumni. Actually, when before his previous firm, he was with Para Architects. That was started with a couple other classmates. And
really?
Since then, he's broken off and kind of started his own thing with his brother, I believe. But they do a lot of cool projects, and it'll be good to have him back at Cal Poly and to give another lecture. They gave a lecture when they were Para Architects, and that's when I was in school. So,
very cool.
In a while, but he's much more accomplished and very smart guy.
Yeah, I was just looking at his little bio here on the Cal Poly website. Pretty cool. Alumni of 2001. So that's awesome. And then there's more coming up. There's 1, 2, 3 more before the end of the year. So, have you guys seen this here, Revista magazine, Connections?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was looking through this. This is like a great summary of everything we've missed for the last quarter. So I was just flipping through. There's some familiar names in here. I'll give you the highlights for our listening audience who hasn't read this yet. There's, let's see, the architecture class of 2004 reunited in November for their 10-year reunion, and they were judges for the Vellum Furniture Competition. Haley, how did we get to be judges for the Vellum Furniture Competition in 2006? I mean, 2016.
Well,
Go back in time.
Or will it be 2015?
2000.
Isn't it in fall quarter actually?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's in the fall.
I'll have to talk to one of our previous guests and now lecturer Andrew Goodwin and see if we can get involved in that, because I know he has been in the past.
Let's drop a line to Tom DeSanto.
That's right. Tom's probably one of the spearheads in that effort as well.
He still likes you. Actually, Tom wished me a happy birthday on my Facebook page last month. So we're tight. We're BFFs.
I run into him every now and then at AIA events.
Oh, really?
Let's drop him a line and let's see.
Well, how do we get our class together for a reunion? See, this was class of 2014, so...
well, we have to have a reunion next year then, because it'll be 10 years.
Yeah. Who's in charge of that? Do we have like a student body president?
No.
Who organizes those kind of things?
I don't know.
Who was the head of the Chumash committee the year we graduated?
I don't think that would be their responsibility. Who was in charge of it?
I think whoever brings it up first, in which case it might be you, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Actually...
You've been voluntold.
Yeah, actually my wife's working on organizing her... I can't... Oh, I don't want to date her. A certain high school reunion she's organizing. So I'll copy notes from her.
Let's start a Facebook group page and start populating it with all of our classmates from 06.
Perfect. Let's do it. That sounds like great.
And sloArch can be the main sponsor.
$10. That's what we've got right now in our account.
Well, we could be a sponsor with love. We don't have to be a monetary sponsor.
Spiritual sponsor.
We are full of love. That's true.
We are the spearheading sponsors. Anyway.
Let's see. There's like 12 other things I want to get to real fast. Okay, so yeah. David Bork, he's a class of 95. He designed the 2014 HGTV Dream Home. Did you know that? That's really cool. Also on my bucket list. I want to do that. See. Okay, so Ryan Brockett, who we just mentioned, he's class of 04 and faculty member, right? He just combined offices with Jim Duffy Architecture and Karen Architecture and started a new studio in San Luis called 10 Over Studio. Yep. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think they just had their office grand opening a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations, Ryan. That's another bucket list item of mine. Have a firm in San Luis Obispo so I can live down there.
I think that's everyone's bucket list.
Do you know what I just realized this Connection magazine is? This is make me feel jealous of people magazine.
No, Tim.
Okay.
No.
So,
it makes me proud of the stock.
That's right.
Stock that comes out of Cal Poly. Proud.
I'm impressed, Q. You're up to speed on all these things. I'm mentioning these to you, and you're just like, yeah, whatever.
Ryan Brockett and Jim Duffy, they're actually previous coworkers of mine when I worked at RRM. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Remember that. Well, let's see. So Ted Hyman, architect BA of 1979, received the CAD 2014 Honored Alumni Award. Did you know that award existed, Haley? You're up to speed on awards. Did you know
I did not know that award existed.
Okay, so this one, I am nominating you next year for this award because I didn't know it existed. After you win your election at coming up, then I will nominate you.
I don't think that makes me award worthy. Just to win an election. These people that you're listing off are like accomplishing things that are.
What you've accomplished all sorts of stuff. Okay, so here's some faculty news. That was alumni news. Did you know that Dean's Weifel retired? I didn't know that. How did I miss that? Oh wait, no, I did know that. Yes, because we've got the new dean, which we met at Chumash.
Yeah.
So this is old. This is old news. This magazine's out of date. Oh, okay. Here's one, Haley. Let's see if you knew this one.
My gosh, you're
Do you-
quizzing me.
Do you know what award Margaret McDonald got?
I do actually.
Oh, okay.
She got the Sustainability Champion Award.
Oh, you are good. You are right.
It's
Okay.
the highest level and only individual level award given at the California Higher Education
You have this in front of
Sustainability
you.
Conference.
You have this in front of you. You're
No, I
reading
don't
it.
have that in front of me.
He's got the website open.
Oh,
Within their Best Practice Awards program. She
You're
was
good.
selected for her work on the Sustainable Environments minor.
okay. Here's one for Q because I know you don't have it open. You're not on top of it like Haley is. Okay. Do you know what position Christopher Yip was appointed to? Who was a very good architectural history professor, as I recall. I tried to stay awake during his lectures.
I don't know what position he's been given now.
Do you want to go to Haley for a lifeline?
I'd like to make a call. Haley, do you know what position Chris Yip has been appointed to?
Is he a professor?
No, so he was appointed to the National Park System Advisory Board, serving as the Asian American Pacific Islander Scholars Expert. He will assist with the identification of potential national historic landmarks.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really cool. And he knows his stuff. I remember even when we were at Cal Poly, he was doing a lot of research on Asian architecture and made trips there. And, so that's really cool. Anyways, yeah, if you haven't had a chance, go on the website like Haley is and look at all the cool stuff the alumni and the faculty are up to. All sorts of people are writing books, being appointed to things. Tom Jones, he's been doing the San Francisco urban program for, what is this, a long time. What does it say? Oh. Anyways, it's expanded. Good stuff. Okay, we're caught up to date. Moving on. The show's getting long. Or anything else you guys want to talk about? Alumni, faculty news, anything you've heard, Q?
No, I think we've covered it pretty well. Maybe we can kind of list subsequent notes on our show notes or something.
Yeah, in fact, actually, I'd like to have some of these people on. I will reach out. We should talk to them in depth because there are some interesting things happening. Okay, let's see. Chuma show. Do we have a date for that? It's Memorial Day weekend, right? That's typical.
Typically, it's Memorial Day weekend. I don't think their website is up and running quite yet. I think it still leads back to last year's, but
yeah. And I was
posted.
sad to see that the sponsors page never did get updated. It's from 2013 because the sloArch Foundation was a sponsor in 2014, but we did not make it on the website. Although we were on the program, which thank you for that. So I need to talk to the fam. That's short for family. But I would like to make it down to Chuma's show. Whether or not we covered or not, I think is up to the panel.
Right now, it's advertised for Saturday, May 23rd from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, May 24th from noon to 5 p.m.
Now that's like, let me pull up my calendar here. That's like a week before you get married, isn't it, Haley? Or 2 weeks? Let's see.
Yeah, it's a little tricky for me.
Yeah, so you're not doing much that weekend. You're free still.
It may actually be the first year I don't attend. I don't know. It's going to be really hard for me.
Yeah, valid reason. Q, what's your schedule like that weekend?
I'm pretty optimistic. I think I should be able to make it again this year. Hopefully you can as well, and maybe we can do something. I don't know if you want to do the same format as in the past, or maybe it's something a little bit different, but I think it would be good to have a presence there, or even not, just to be able to see some of the graduating students' work, because it is so awesome every year, and it'd be good to catch up with faculty and old friends as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. For the last several years, we've photographed every single exhibit and most of those photographs are up on the wiki. They're not all on the wiki because it takes a tremendous amount of time to do all that indexing and put them on there.
I think that's kind of a great maybe opportunity if we can get a student or two or three involved with the podcast. Maybe that's something they could help us with in identifying pictures with students and kind of helping us to organize that.
Yeah, in fact, Haley for the last several years has done a fantastic job of sorting the photographs and identifying.
Yeah.
They're all in folders. I have done a lackluster job in getting them all entered into the database because that takes a whole lot of time. But yeah, there's definitely some potential to help out there, and I do think it's an interesting resource we provide. I don't know if anybody takes advantage of it. There are, just looking at the web statistics, people do look at the Chumash Show website quite often. I mean, there's some cool stuff on there, but maybe I think one year we did like 5 episodes that were Chumash Show. Another year we split it into 2 or 3. Last year I think we did just 1 episode of interviews.
Yeah.
That's probably reasonable, just to do 1 episode, interview 4 or 5 people, call it a day,
Yeah.
and then just hang out. But okay, we can talk. We've got another month. And then, let's see, May 2nd, the classes of 63, 64, and 65 are having their reunion. I guess when you start to get to your 40-year anniversary or 50-year reunions, you start grouping them together. It's a good idea. Make a note of that, Haley, when we're planning our 50-year anniversary or reunion. And then June 13th is graduation already. It's crazy.
Oh gosh, another year.
Yes.
Makes me
Okay.
so old.
I know.
I don't like it. I'm not old.
So I think that's a good note to end on. I threw in a couple of other links, unless you guys really want to get to them, we can. But I think that's probably good for now. Oh, actually, Haley, I do want to talk about this AIA link I've got while I've got you on, because I don't know if you're going to be on the show again for another 6 months, just with all the stuff you've got going on. I found this link on Forbes magazine, written by what appears to be a very bitter professional, or maybe somebody who's just really realistic. The title of it is "The American Institute of Architects Outreach Campaign is Doomed to Failure." And he goes to talk about this campaign that the AIA has done, and there's been television spots, and I'm guessing billboards or magazine ads, I don't know. And they're trying to talk up the importance of architects and the Look Up campaign, I think, right? And he's saying the AIA is clueless, and you know, architects are losing the battle of public perception. Modern architecture and architects in general are just useless and creating buildings that are horrific.
Yeah, but he also says a few other very idiotic things that are more idiotic than that. Can I just say that? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, Justin.
I think it might be important to note also that underneath his name as contributor, it says, "I have strong opinions about public art and architecture," as if he's kind of preluding to the fact that he may be a little satirical or even ironical in the comments that he makes.
Yeah. I don't know. His opening sentence just, to me, like, set the whole thing up. And I read the whole thing, and I had to come back to it a few times because it was upsetting me. I understand where he's coming from, but to open up the article and say that architects are always in a precarious position, unlike doctors and lawyers, their services are never required, is kind of an asinine statement to make. Obviously, he doesn't understand, like, codes or regulations at all. Like,
it's not just him; it's a lot of people.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, to say that architectural services are never required is like a gross overstatement that is completely false. And the building that he probably sat in to write this article, to say that you could just go to a contractor or developer to to build that building, to design that building, is not true. So from the very beginning, like he did not have me at hello. He had me up
Well,
in arms. Like maybe he should have done some Googling first to understand what architecture is, instead of thinking that it's just about starchitects and it's just about trying to like trick the public into needing our services. I mean, that's so far from what we do.
well, yeah. I mean, what's scary is he's the president of the National Civic Art Society, and he is the architecture blogger for Forbes,
Right,
and
that's really scary to me.
you know, he's going to a bunch of different architecture conferences, and you know, he's representing at least Forbes magazine and this National Civic Society. But do you think? Okay, so I wanted to bring this up because Haley, you're obviously very involved with the AIA. You know the inner workings and what maybe the thought process is behind this campaign. What is the AIA's goal with the campaign, and do you see it as doomed to failure? And this is your chance to rebut, if you wish, or if you're even qualified. I don't know how much you know about the program, the campaign.
I know a lot about it. I was on a small working group for it. Anyway, I could see how the perception could be one that this marketing campaign is along the lines of what this Justin Schubau person is saying. I just waved my hand. If you had a webcam, you could see my dismissive hand gesture towards him.
Okay, everyone go to sloArch.com right now. Donate $5 so we can buy Haley a webcam. Okay, yeah. Continue, Haley.
I could see how it could be interpreted as that, but in the exact opposite vein, actually, the marketing campaign was largely in response to what the membership was asking for. So a number of years ago, there was a large campaign that was done on, there were radio ads and some NPR spots, and a lot of members felt that it was very beneficial, right, to educate the public and clients to what architects do and the value of hiring an architect, right, along the lines of you know, the design process and just the value that we have, not from an egotistical standpoint, but the actual value by having a design professional, you know, involved in the development and programming and designing of your space. So all this work that the AIA has been doing the last few years, which Justin cites in his article here related to the repositioning of the Institute, a lot of members were very vocal about wanting a strategic marketing campaign that helped to elevate the awareness of architecture amongst the general public, to help kind of break through some of the stereotypes and some of this elitist mentality that people seem to have developed related to architecture, architects, and the process of hiring an architect and the whole experience. So it's not really the AIA trying to what is he saying here, combat of a free fall, because we're, I don't know, in a free fall. It was really actually just in response to what members were asking for, and the AIA is a membership organization. We don't represent all architects or architects as a whole, but we're a membership organization, and we're really the only professional organization that, you know, advocates for all architects. So this was an opportunity to listen to our members and, you know, really kind of move forward with their, you know, opinions in mind.
You know, it's a really interesting point you make there, that this was driven by the members, because I know personally in my firm and what we've seen over the last several years is our being needed even more, that especially in California, as the building codes and regulations have become so much more complicated, developers aren't comfortable just going to an unlicensed professional, even for smaller projects that don't require an architect. They're coming to us for, I mean, we're getting to the point where we're going to turn down some of these projects, but even really small little residential remodels or little modifications to a commercial TI where they might not necessarily need an architect, but they're so concerned that things are done correctly, that they're not, giving themselves undue liability, that they're seeking us out to consult on these and provide services for these little things. So, and then just across the board, the last couple of years, we've seen just a huge upswing in work. So, yeah, I wouldn't say the profession's in a free fall. If anything, I think we're rebounding, and we have splintered off a bit even more. I know in California we've now got the CASPs that are specific to accessibility for home construction. There's the new Greenpoint, well, not new, but there's Greenpoint Raiders, and LEED has split off the last couple of years. Now there's LEED for homes, and that's more specialized. And all of our new residential projects, for example, in Oakland, we have to bring on a third-party green consultant. Even though I'm a lead AP, we can't do it in-house. They require a third party. So I mean, the profession is continuing to fragment, but I see us as being more of an asset in that we understand all the parts, we have more to coordinate, and it's just becoming more complicated to build.
Well, and I mean, you're definitely on. I mean, you're on point there with everything related to sustainable design and energy conservation. I mean, you look at our building code in California and the iterations that we've gone through, and all the Title 24 requirements, and the responsibility that's placed on the design team and the architect and the engineers that are putting these buildings together to conserve energy and be more mindful of the consumption and the products that are going in, the materials, and that whole process. That's just a baseline. I mean, that's not even getting into LEED or any of those higher benchmarks of sustainable design, because we can't. I mean, it's not like it was hundreds of years ago where you can just sprawl, right, and you can just use water. I mean, we're experiencing a severe drought in California right now, and we have to be mindful of everything that we're doing, and buildings are not exempt from that. But I mean, even more so if you look at resiliency, and we've seen the storms that have been happening and the populations that are affected by these weather patterns. And I mean, the need for architects, like you're saying, is just it's just so frustrating to me, because we're the ones that are helping to rebuild and helping to shape communities. There's a number of architects that are going back into Detroit to help revive Detroit, right? After all the blight and severe economic crisis that's happened in that city. I mean, architects are the ones that are at the forefront. They're the ones at the battle lines, and I think it's very ignorant to assume that just because Frank Gehry is quoted to say something in an article that it speaks for all architects, or just because of his design of that residence of his.
Yeah, I noticed that too, like as if Frank Gehry spoke for all architects, or that he was iconic of what we all think. I mean,
yeah, and to use building failures of the, was it the Hancock building that he was citing, or the Johnson building in Chicago? I mean, to use that as an example for all architects. I mean, yeah, sometimes buildings fail, but technologies have changed drastically in the decades that have followed that entire episode that he quotes in this article. And
you could make that same parallel with automobile designers, right? Like, oh, automobile designers are failing miserably. Look at how many car crashes there are.
Right, right.
Or even like, citing a plane crash and condemning the entire airline industry,
Yeah.
thinking they're just concerned about aesthetics and saving costs, and they don't care about passengers. Yeah, whatever. But there's, yeah, it's. I remember studying in high school about different types of fallacies. I wonder how many we could count in this article.
I mean, I understand where he's coming from. I just think it's unfair to take a handful of examples that he cites in this article and say that it speaks for the entire population of architects that are doing good, responsible work currently. To cite like brutalism and modernism, I think there's not much argument there. I mean, it's the whole piece to me is very removed from the reality of what architecture is and the process of architecture that we go through nowadays and what it has become because of technology, because of the litigious society that we live in, because of iterations of code compliance and all these things that we have to deal with now are a result of situations of the past where you did have material failures that came about, not because anybody did it intentionally,
Well, building science is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Like, I meet with product reps all the time, and I mean, things are changing. But let's get back to the original premise, though, that architects aren't needed. And I think, Hugh, you had mentioned this, or maybe Haley did, I forget. That's the perception a lot of people have. And even if they don't think that outright, I think we're definitely undervalued and appreciated. Would you, obviously it's a self-serving question, but would you two agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I think, from a personal standpoint, I've come across clients in my professional work where they've kind of been burned by initially not having gone with an architect, and they realize that they need an architect, and once they start working with us, they realize the services that we actually provide. And I think it's difficult for a lot of people in the public that maybe haven't gotten involved in working with an architect, and all they really see of our work is finished buildings that might have been completed 30, 40 years ago that maybe do fail, but it's hard for them to really see the process and the amount of work that it really takes. And I'm constantly told by clients, I didn't realize we had to do this. I didn't realize that was part of what needs to happen. And yeah, I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I say the same thing. We've really a couple of really tragic instances where we've had clients come to us after spending thousands of dollars on unlicensed professionals. In fact, a few years ago, we had someone come to us. They had hired an unlicensed professional to design a new commercial building for them. They tried to submit the building plans to the building department, and the building department basically laughed at them. They're like, well, first of all, you need an architect to stamp these, and then you didn't even go through a planning process, and they'd spent, I think, $12,000, $13,000 on these plans, thinking they were getting a good deal, when in the end, we came in, we tried to help them as much as we could. We gave them a little bit of a big discount, because we felt bad for them. But they lost a tremendous amount of money, not to mention all the time involved. And I think, in part because they didn't understand the role of an architect in building construction, and that's where I see maybe this campaign that the AIA is doing having some benefit of putting in the public consciousness this idea that architects provide services that they can use.
Right, services and value, tremendously increased value.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Haley, I'm sure you see this all the time with schools. Darden Architects, who you work for, they've done schools for a long time, so they understand it. I'm assuming. I have never built a school with Darden Architects, but they understand educational architecture and how it affects learning and students and school district budgets and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, yeah. If you just tried to hire, well, I mean, if you took someone straight out of Cal Poly, they would probably do a reasonably good job. but there is that institutional learning and education that's happened over the decades of Darn architects that allows them to provide a better product, right?
Right. And I mean, it's constantly changing, right? I mean, there's new code cycles, there's new technologies, there's new curriculum, right? So the user group changes, so you have to evolve your design methodology along those lines. You can't just keep doing the same thing that you've done every year, right? You have to keep evolving. But I mean, what I think is funny, just like to bring it around full circle to this whole article, to have the headline that the American Institute of Architects outreach campaign is doomed to fail. The fact that he's covering the campaign in Forbes magazine is a success. So that right there, it didn't fail, because this is the point of the campaign. The point is to talk about architecture and architects. So whether you agree with this point of view or you don't, you're having the conversation, and that was the point of the campaign. The point of the campaign was awareness.
Right on.
Yeah, and here we are having that conversation as well. So that's a great note to end on. Good job, Haley, for bringing it full circle. Really quickly, just before we move on, so I called this episode the Phoenix just because I was recently reading.
We're rising from the ashes.
We're rising. I felt like this was dead. I've been lamenting it for months. Like, oh, how are we going to get this thing going again? And it's just a matter of doing it, right? So we're going to do it. But my question to you two is, the foundation is the sloArch Foundation, which my daughter was asking me today why sloArch, and so I had to explain to her San Luis Obispo architecture is where it came from. And then I did ARCH because then we have 3 letters on both sides of the A, so it makes a nice balanced logo.
Yeah.
You could pronounce it sloArch, I guess, but sloArch. Anyways, my question to you is, the podcast, though, is called The Studio. And Haley and I, when we first set this up, the idea was like, we're in studio, we're just hanging around talking, But as far as searchability and recognizability, I'm making up words now. It's like, does the name The Studio still fit? Should we redo it, rebrand? I'm thinking brand new bumper music, new bottom thirds. We'll get Haley a webcam that she can use once every 4 months. We can, get cool costumes, uniforms. I don't know. But if we rename it, what should we rename it? And what do you think?
Well, I haven't personally thought of other names. I don't have too much of a problem with the name. I like it. I understand where it comes from, but again, I think you were kind of stressing that from a recognizable standpoint, maybe another name would be a little bit better. But is that something maybe we should try to wait for some input from our fans or from listeners, or do you guys have any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We can do that. I can post something on the Facebook page and send it on Twitter and see what people think. I was thinking maybe something with sloArch in the title, like even if we just changed it to sloArch. Yeah, exactly. I don't really like that, but that'd be a fallback if we can't come up with anything else. That way, at least it shows up in search results. But okay, well, we will adjourn. We will defer this decision after seeking input from our fan base, and
I will second that.
Okay, so we are going to try to do a show, folks, twice a month. Once around the beginning, the first week of the month, and then once around the 15th. So this is our 15th of the month show. So we're going to come back first week of May and try to do another show, and then we'll just see what happens. We'll go from there. So cue imaginary bumper music, drums or something, and thanks, Haley, for carving some time out of your busy architecture week and all your area events to come join with us.
Haley.
Oh,
It's good to have all three of us on.
Yeah, likewise.
And-
I know everybody's really busy.
Yes, and in fact, I've got work to do tonight. It's 10 o'clock, and I've still got deadlines, so
Me
it's late
too.
at night. But thanks, Q, for coming on the show, and we'll see who we can get on in 2 weeks, but there will be a show one way or the other, even if it's me talking to, let's see, my son's sippy cup frog. Even if it's this, there will be a show. Okay, have a good night.
All right, have a great night.